From the air, the villages of Clapham and Patching can be seen within their downland setting. They lie amidst fields and woodland along the southern slopes of the South Downs. It is possible to pick out some of the detail of the houses and buildings and to see the narrow lane that runs through each village. But let us take a closer look and move away from the road that divides our villages and walk through Clapham. We pass a mixture of housing, some in local flint and in brick and timber, a few thatched, most tiled. The narrow lane has an abrupt end leading into a myriad of tracks and the darker enclosed depths of Clapham Woods. But let us not walk to the end, but instead turn left towards the Church of St Mary the Virgin, its squat tower crouched low in its woodland camouflage. Gwen Heath, churchwarden, provides a history of the church. The church was built in the 12th century and is purported to house the best collection of memorials in West Sussex, in the opinion of the advisor of the memorials to the diocese. We have many good brasses, mainly of the Shelley family, both on the floor and the chancel wall. The wall brasses are the most valuable, and these were renovated about 6 years ago with money left in a resident's will for such purposes. They are now regarded as a national church monument. On the chancel wall there is a carved memorial to the Shelley family, 14 children, and the father a judge at the time of Henry VIII's poor Anne Boleyn. Much restoration was carried out by Sir Gilbert Scott in the mid-19th century. At that time the stained glass window over the west door and the west door itself were added, together with the wonderful William Morris tiles. Add the 12th century gravestone in the vestry, the leper's window in the south wall, and that completes this potted history. I love it for the peace and love which abounds there, and for all it has meant to and means to our villagers and to visitors to our woods. And oh dear, I nearly forgot, for the water tap in the churchyard given to us by the Friends of Clapham and Patching Churches. Thank you, friends. Patching village shows similar diversity in the style of its buildings, and again a lane takes you through the village to a gated exit onto open downs, and the summits of Black Patch and Harrow Hills, pockmarked by prehistoric flint mines and with fabulous views. The village church of St John the Divine stands plain and simple, sitting almost in a farmyard, its spire soaring to the skies. The church was restored in the late 19th century. Today it maintains a good deal of the late Victorian charm which many visitors find so appealing. It has a medieval font and a uniquely carved wooden pulpit with panels from the 15th century, and a very beautiful reredos showing the Angel of the Resurrection with the procession to Jerusalem on one side and the procession to Calvary on the other. The 42 figures in the two scenes and the expression on some of the faces is remarkably fine. Richard Pryor, churchwarden of Patching Church, says, "Patching Church to me represents the Christian faith, the guidelines of which support and uphold a healthy society, whether you are a believer or not. Visible with its spire from far off, it epitomizes the continuation of village life during the centuries." By the mid-1990s it was becoming only too clear to the PCC of Clapham and Patching that financial prospects for the millennium and the next century were not good. The means of safeguarding the fabric of the two 12th century churches had to be at the top of the agenda. To do this, funds had to be raised. It was agreed by the PCC that Sir Richard Best, who was churchwarden of Patching, as well as chairman of the Patching Parish Council, should be given the task of investigating his suggestion that a Friends of Clapham and Patching Churches could be formed for this purpose. With the encouragement of our then rector, Zachary Allen, a public meeting was held in the village hall in September 1996. This was attended by over 100 interested villagers, and support was given by prominent local residents including Major General Sir Philip Ward and Mr J. Fitzroy Somerset each of whom agreed to be an honorary patron. The new charity was registered with the Charities Commission as the Friends of Clapham and Patching Churches. From the beginning it was made clear that membership was open to all who were interested in preserving the fabric of the two churches, irrespective of their personal religious loyalty, or indeed none at all. At the very first meeting, a committee was formed with Sir Richard Best as chairman, Tony Viner as his deputy, Peter Kemp Potter as honorary treasurer, and Tony Crowther as honorary secretary. These officers, together with a group of active and dedicated members, including Ed Bacon, David Gillard and Gwen Heath, have been re-elected regularly. We have equally been fortunate in the generous support of other residents, notably Brian Bedson, who has helped beyond measure with printing and publishing projects in support of the charity. Also at this meeting, a plan of action was established to explain who the Friends were, why they were needed, and to encourage membership and subscription. Plans were made for regular fundraising events, which would have the added attraction of being entertaining. These included dinners, concerts, fetes, and other community activities, as the next section will illustrate.
The very first event held was actually in advance of our formal constitution. A gala concert held in the village hall showcasing the musical talents of our young and not so young villagers, with a fine dinner provided by Simon Margaroli, a resident of Patching at the time. It was wonderful entertainment and set the Friends off to a flying start. We hosted a harvest supper and shortly afterwards a harvest lunch. And keeping to the theme of food, we held our first spring dinner in the hall in March 1997, which was enjoyed so much it then became an annual affair, catered for by Sue Sycamore, with a bottle raffle by Ed Bacon, complete with after-dinner musical entertainment. Some dinners were themed, such as our Spanish evening, and recently a celebration of the Queen's 80th birthday. Other events included a tabletop sale, a cake and quiz night with questions compiled by Dick Best, and a guided tour of the two churches by the church wardens, Dick Best and Gwen Heath. Then came a series of musical events. Listen to the band being the Northbrook College Community Band. Anna and Adam, a musical recital in Patching Church, where we also hosted the Three Ladies, Anna Reutemann again, with Gemma Crowther and Siobhan O'Higgins in concert, as part of the 3-day Festival of Friendship, a flower festival masterminded by Grace Foyle, which culminated in songs of praise in the church with a barbecue afterwards at Wellcroft, courtesy of Ed and Beverly Bacon. Musically, we also enjoyed concerts performed by Sound Sacred, a choral group from Burford led by Sue Taylor, held in both churches. The long tradition in our villages of the English garden fete, with stalls, games and teas, was continued by the Friends, with fetes held in the gardens of Hollyhow, Delaney House, and last year at Robinswood in Patching. This year it is to be held in the gardens of South House and Springbourne, Clapham.
Alright, there it is, we'll put it in there.
We can have cat food or scented pillows.
And it's been declared Archer. Yeah, so if you'd like to go and tell Dick, somebody,
Yes.
the winner of the Pacing the Chain is Archer.
One blue. Anybody got 241 blue? Yes.
The Friends of Clapham and Patching churches have worked hard to celebrate Christmas in our villages over the years. Events have been held which revolved around two local musical groups, Gaudeamus with their medieval music and instrumental talents, and the Clapham and Patching Singers, who meet up each year to rehearse carols and seasonal songs and the odd opera. Themed concerts have been enjoyed in each church, complete with mince pies and mulled wine to warm the hearts. Music has ranged from early medieval and wassail songs to Victorian parlour tunes and Irving Berlin, and has been accompanied by organ, piano, flute, violin, recorder, guitar, and even full-blown orchestras, courtesy of computer technology. In 2005, we held concerts which featured projected video and Christmas imagery, a visual spectacular. In contrast, we have continued the tradition of outdoor carol singing, but in a more static and warmer way by holding carols around the coals, more accurately blazing log fires in braziers, in the churchyard at Patching. Initially conceived and arranged by the Friends, latterly this has been organised and managed by the Patching Village Society. This has also taken place outside the Old Forge, Patching, and also on the recreation ground at Clapham. And with the fine weather so far, the refreshments provided and the lusty singing, this has become a hugely enjoyable and atmospheric family Christmas event. The first project undertaken by the Friends was at Clapham Church, where a mains water supply was piped to the corner of the churchyard so that it could be used for flower arranging, cleaning, etc. Previously, water had always been carried up to the church along the lane by hand. At Patching Church, a motor mower was purchased, and sections of the churchyard walls at the south had fallen into disrepair and were rebuilt. Some exterior stonework was professionally repaired, and the serious damp problem inside the church was solved by the thorough clearing of the drains and eaves gutters. Replastering internally and redecoration completed the task. The stained glass church windows at Patching had been the source of some concern, and under Richard Pryor's direction, these were originally planned as a Friends project, partly funded by us, but eventually a bequest from Helen Penfold was earmarked by the PCC for this purpose, and the windows were renovated. Sundry items of work have been undertaken selflessly by various members of the committee, including the cleaning of the brass screens at Clapham Church by Ed Bacon, and the reinstatement of the mains water supply at Patching Church by Richard Pryor, which had previously been cut off. More recently, the pipe organ at Clapham Church was attended to, following the theft in 1980 of the display pipes. A new rank of pipes was installed in late 2005, using second-hand pipes which would otherwise have been scrapped. The pitch of the new rank is 1 octave above unison, 4 foot in organ terms, thus giving brightness and authority to the tone of the great organ, played from the lower manual, and increasing the leading quality for congregational singing, Roger Foyle observes, having advised and supervised the work. While starting life as a Friends project, to which we had pledged funds, this work was again eventually underwritten by the Parochial Church Council. One pride and joy of Clapham Church is the superb set of tiles to the reredos behind the altar, depicting the 4 archangels. These are from the workshop of William Morris, and are believed to have been made by Morris himself. Photographs were taken, and a collection of Christmas cards and notelets were designed. These were generously printed at no cost to us by Brian Bedson, a resident of Patching. Sales of these cards could be found at just about any village event over the next year or two, until they finally sold out, realising valuable early funds for the Friends. Early in 2003, Sally Morris and Tony Crowther proposed and compiled a newsletter to promote the Friends and to illustrate our work. A 4-page brochure was produced and distributed to good acclaim at the spring dinner that year. The newsletter explained simply who we are, what we do, and how we raise money. There was also a comprehensive article describing Clapham Church, its history, and its many lovely features. The back page included an application form and information on how to join, and there was also a Stop Press section which listed the many regular events which could be looked forward to. A new newsletter is currently under discussion, and this will hopefully bring all members and prospective members up to date on our work, projects and events. With a title inspired by the brickworks of Clapham and the water of Patching Pond, this book, charting the history of the 2 villages through the life stories and anecdotes of their inhabitants, has far and away been the most significant fundraiser for the Friends. The book was conceived and written by 4 of the committee members, Dick Best, David Gillard, Ed Bacon and Tony Crowther, and Brian Bedson once again generously printed it at no cost to us, so that all proceeds went to the Friends funds. 2,000 paperback copies were printed and 1 hardback copy. A series of consultative meetings was held in the village hall to chart progress of the collection of information and photographs, and to encourage contribution from everyone, and the book was eventually completed and launched with a slideshow and some ceremony in December 2000. A similar slideshow was presented in Findon Village Hall 2 months later, and a revisited evening in November 2001 back in our own villages presented new material and feedback to a packed hall. Not only did the book make a huge contribution to our funds, the whole exercise was enormous fun for all involved, a wonderful archive of information and history for our villages, and we believe it helped to strengthen our community.
That the Friends have been so successful, socially and financially, is due in no small part to one person, a person who has been the most prominent in all the progress of the charity, just as he was in the setting up of it. Sir Richard Best, Dick to all of his friends, has been similarly influential in many village and parish affairs since his retirement, in his roles as churchwarden at Patching, member of the PCC, chairman of the parish council, and chairman of the Friends of Clapham and Patching churches. He is respected, valued and loved by the whole community. But how well do we really know him? Do we know just how colourful and celebrated a career he has led? Do we know what exotic locations he and Mary have lived in over the years? Let us go back in time, some 40 years, to a time when Holly Howe was called Oddicombe. After graduating from London University with an honours degree in history, Dick joined the Home Office. He later transferred to the Foreign Commonwealth Office and in 1969 was sent out to the British High Commission in Lusaka, Zambia, in the role of Information Officer. When they returned to England on leave, they decided to sell their house in Tunbridge and seek to buy a property in the Patching area, close both to Mary's family in East Preston and also Dick's mother, who was at that time living in Meadow Cottage, France Lane, Patching. When Oddicombe in the street came on the market, they jumped at the chance to buy it and renamed it Holly Howe. In 1972, Dick and Mary were posted to Stockholm, where Dick spent 4 years at the British Embassy looking after economic affairs. John was born there in 1973. In 1976, they returned to Patching for a 3-year period, during which Dick commuted to London, working in the Foreign Commonwealth Office Personnel Department. In 1979 they were next posted to India, where for 4 years Dick was First Secretary Commercial, being head of the Commercial Department in the British High Commission in New Delhi, dealing with trade missions and British businessmen seeking opportunities in India. After a further 18-month spell in London, in 1984 Dick was appointed Deputy High Commissioner and head of post in Kaduna, a place of crocodiles in northern Nigeria, looking after expatriates and joining in their social life, which centred on clubs, polo, rugby and cricket, promoting trade and helping with the aid programme. Dick also had to call on local rulers, notably the Sultan of Sokoto, who had ruled his kingdom in northern Nigeria for 50 years. The highlight of this posting was possibly Margaret Thatcher's visit to Kano. Before being sent to his next post in Iceland, Dick was awarded the CBE in 1989. We see him here outside Buckingham Palace and also posing happily for the camera with his daughter Anne. Settled into the embassy at Reykjavik, in this beautiful part of the world, Dick, as ambassador to Iceland, was in charge of the Queen's state visit in 1990 and accompanied her on many engagements, including the moment when the Queen was enveloped in a sulphur spray from a geyser whilst crossing a Broadway. Mary and Dick were privileged to spend 2 nights on the Royal Yacht Britannia as honorary members of the royal household. Mary describes the royal yacht as homely, not nearly as ornate as one would expect. Following the state visit, Dick was knighted by the Queen in recognition of his services during this visit. In compiling these family snapshots of Dick's life and work, we noticed a recurring feature: left hand in pocket and a glass in the other. If not a glass in hand, a wine bottle is often to be found nearby. And Dick is even prepared to shamelessly sponsor commercial beverages to get ahead in his career. Not surprising then that he was typecast as Lord Hangover, Cinderella's father, in a 1988 amateur production in Kaduna. This heady career is well documented, but certain aspects of Dick's character are less apparent, and perhaps rightly so. We can reveal here that he has a secret penchant for dressing up. This started at an early age, seen here with his mother, and progressed during his postings in Stockholm and his excursions into amateur dramatics, which were transparent excuses for dressing up. He developed an urge to wear silly hats, which continues to this day. On stage he moved into colourful coats and more silly hats, and latterly into black pop socks. His particular favourite couture, white dress naval outfits, won him a bit part in Richard Attenborough's film Gandhi, alongside Ben Kingsley and Sir John Mills, filmed entirely in India.
Forgive me, gentlemen, but you must understand that His Majesty's government and the British people repudiate both the massacre and the philosophy.
Don't blink and concentrate or you'll miss him. This is character acting at its finest. Just look at that stoical visage. It completely sums up in one expression the British attitude at the time towards the Indian insurrection. In marked contrast to his dramatic ebullience, Dick is somewhat reticent about other triumphs in his past life. In 1966 he was the national winner of Brain of Britain, the popular BBC radio general knowledge quiz hosted by Robert Robinson. His invitation to London by the BBC, his progress through early rounds, semi-finals and his winning of the grand final was chronicled by various local and national newspapers, and he became the toast of intellectual and social circles. Now you all know why he is the past master at compiling questions about villages' quiz nights. In 1991, Mary and Dick returned to Patching and settled down to rural life in Britain, although Dick did not fully retire from the Foreign Office until 1996. They both found the adjustment easy to make and became fully involved in all aspects of local life. Just as Dick's activities with the church, parish council and Friends charity was wholehearted, so was Mary's involvement as president of the PTA of the Clapham and Patching School, with the WI committee, as well as Christian Aid and the RNIB. Just as her teamwork with Dick and all his postings throughout the world worked perfectly, so it continued to do here in our small corner of Sussex. They are the consummate partnership, and their family the perfect success story. This personal success reflects the success of Dick's brainchild, the Friends charity. Whilst its nature is completely local, related solely to the two ancient buildings less than a mile apart and to their surrounding communities, Dick's rather more widespread, colourful and educated background in diplomacy and organisation has provided an irreplaceable sense of wisdom and sure-handedness, steering us to our charity's own success. From the air, the villages of Clapham and Patching can be seen within their downland setting. They lie among... God, start again, huh? They lie amidst fields and woodland along the southern slopes of the South Downs. Dick made contact with Mr. Jonathan Pritchard, newly appointed dust... Oh, I can't do this without laughing. Dick made contact with Mr. John... let's have a couple of minutes break. At the very first meeting, a plan of action was established to explain why the friends... Can't read my own writing. Start again. Come back. Go. Now you all know what... No, that's no good. Settled into the embassy at Reykjavik in this beautiful part of the world, Dick, as ambassador to Settled into the embassy at Reykjavik in this beautiful part of the world, Dick, as ambassador to Iceland, was in charge of the Queen's state visit in 1990, and accompanied her on many engagements. Oh God, I can't read this. No, let's go on to another bit. Can I come back to that? Settled into the embassy at Reykjavik in this beautiful part of the world, Dick, as ambassador to Iceland, was in charge of the Queen's state visit in 1990, and accompanied her on many engagements, including the moment when the Queen was enveloped in sulphur spray from a geyser. Oh, can I just do the end of that? Oh, come. Why have I got to say geyser? It just sets me off. Settled. Try again. Settled into the embassy at Reykjavik in this beautiful part of the world, Dick, as ambassador to Iceland, was in charge of the Queen's state visit in 1990, and accompanied her on many engagements, including the moment when the Queen was enveloped in a sulphur spray from a geyser whilst crossing a Broadwalk.